Hello and welcome to the channel again. This is Sam trying to spin to win on Swift. Another day, another FRR race. Today it's stage 4 on the Casse course. It's almost like the little brother race of the race we did yesterday, in that it's a little bit shorter and it's only one ascent up to Petit. Having said that, because it's only one ascent, I think that the top guys may go even harder today on that one effort in order to cause separation. So I still think it's going to be a pretty tough race today. Before we get into the action though, I wanted to have another look at yesterday's results, specifically discussing the EGAP system and whether you can game it or not. Controversial topic perhaps.
Very controversial.
But I think it's worth highlighting to see what the pros and cons are. We'll then have a look at the GC leaderboard in the CRP division after 3 stages to see how I'm getting on.
You are soft, weak!
Finally, we'll have a quick look at today's course, Casse, which I think will take around 55 minutes or so, and then we'll get into the action. My legs feel okay, I think. But we'll only find out when the race actually starts. So, see you then. First, let's have a brief look at the results from stage 3 again, as there are a few things to point out. And I also wanted to discuss whether you can game the EGAP system or not. FRR Race Control keeps working on the reporting, and it is getting better every day. Now we can see that there are actually 5 riders in first place, which, when you think about it, makes sense. Each one of these riders won their respective race yesterday, so they all have a 0 EGAP for the stage. You can then check your EGAP on the stage on the right here. However, the way EGAP works, it throws up some figures that, at a glance, does not make sense.
I'm confused.
If we look at me, for example, I had a finish time of just over 1 hour and 28 minutes and an EGAP of 33 seconds. However, if we look at Mr. Vegard Hosland, he had a finish time of almost 1 hour 25 minutes, or 3 minutes faster than me, but he had an EGAP of 1 minute and 11 seconds. This shows that even if you're in a slower race, you can still compete on GC. But this begs the question, does this mean that you can effectively game the EGAP system?
I mean, no way.
Potentially a controversial topic, but I don't know, most people don't really care, and rightfully so. But I did want to cover it as I think it raises some interesting situations. I should point out before going further with this discussion that I really like the EGAP system.
I really do.
Please keep that in mind. So, is gaming the system possible? I would say maybe, but only if you're also very lucky at the same time. I suppose it is possible that if you have the time to choose a race during the day that didn't have a single rider in your category, well, you're on to a winner. But that is highly unlikely to happen, and what is the fun in that? Again, if you could choose a race where you think you're among the strongest in your category, you're then also more likely to minimize your EGAP. However, if you're that strong, well, I don't think you have anything to worry about in the first place. And if you really wanted to get into the figures,
Calculating data. Calculating data.
you could try to pick a race where you think that either you could stay with the front group no matter what, or a race where nobody in your category could stay with the front group. Either of these scenarios also gives you a good chance of having a low EGAP for that race. Of course, if you're in the highest category in your start pen, such as Cap or Bon, well, sorry, but you should hopefully be in the front group at the finish anyway. So In summary, I think it's difficult to truly get an advantage in EGAP. I think attending races during the day with smaller numbers of riders is a slight advantage, but there are a lot of factors out of your control.
Everything's under control.
Until the race starts, you really don't know who will attend, and you still face the possibility that one or more of your category manages to stay with the front group. And if you don't, you're likely to lose a heap of time on EGAP, just like in the better attended time slots. So good luck trying to game the system. Rather, just pick a race time that suits and just have a good go at it. I did also want to point out that I was right about yesterday's race and EGAP.
I was right!
We can see that the top 10 riders or so, riders who likely did manage to stay with the front group almost all the way to the end of the stage, like myself, and I was very lucky, had smallish EGAPs. However, outside of that group, other riders lost much more time. If we look at the EGAP in places 26 through 50 from yesterday's race, we can see a range from 1 minute 30 to just over 3 minutes of EGAPs. And from 51 through 75, the time extends all the way out to over 6 minutes. Again, this highlights the fact that if you're able to stay with the front group, you're onto a winner, literally. If not, you can lose a heap of time in a hurry. That also highlights the issue of mass starts with a number of categories in the same pen. I may discuss this a bit in tomorrow's video, as there are pros and cons with this also. So, what are the GC standings for the CRP category after 3 races? We find Mr. Frim in first place, Caleb Barrows in second, with Pascal Stroopwafel in third. They are actually very close together on EGAP, so they're having a right ding-dong battle at the top of the leaderboard. To my huge surprise, I find myself in 13th place, out of the 84 riders who have completed all 3 stages. I knew I would likely move up after yesterday's race, but I certainly didn't expect to be this high. I think I'm likely to drop down now.
More than likely.
But it is good to be up here while it lasts. Now let's have a quick look at today's course, Casse. As I mentioned in the intro earlier, this is like the little brother of yesterday's race. There is a lot of flat both before and after the Petit Com. We do go over the Acqueduc Com twice, and the second time around, the race finish is cheekily set a few hundred meters after the Com finish. I'm sure this is going to catch a few people out. Thank you very much, Mr. FRR Control.
Thank you.
Unless there's some mad attacks on the flat, which, by the way, I'm slowly starting to get used to by now, by those crazy cap category fellas.
You guys are nuts.
There are really 2 points where the separation will take place today. The first, I think, will be on the first Acqueduc Com. Given there's a sprint just before it, I think the lower categories in the pen in particular may struggle a bit here to stay with the front. The second is of course the Petit Com. Man, I'm already getting tired of this climb.
I hate it!
As mentioned, I think if anything, the top riders will go even harder here today. And if you're not with the front group at the top of the climb, you're likely to lose a few minutes of EGAP in case a rider from your category has made that selection. Apart from that, the course is pretty straightforward. Okay, on to the action. And today, I actually have footage. Yay!
Let's race.
Okay, thought I'd try something a bit different today and provide a bit of commentary as we're actually doing the race. If nothing else, it may save me some editing time, and God knows I need that. So, my tactic for today is pretty straightforward again, just like the last couple of races. We're just trying to hang on to the front group as long as I can. I think I'll be okay today, up until the ascent of the Petit come. But then I think it's going to be an almighty dash up there today. And unless I break my 5-minute power record, which on somewhat tired legs, I think it's unlikely, I probably will get dropped there. But let's hope, if that's the case, that no other CRP riders manage to stay with the front. And if that's the case, my EGAP should hopefully be pretty low. But we'll find out. Always has to be somebody off the front. Good luck.
Now, keep this guy in mind here. He has a big part to play in the race later.
What are people doing?
As I am completely bewildered why people are attacking after 1 kilometer, I can now say in hindsight that this was probably the move of the race. Let's skip forward a few kilometers to find out why.
This discussion, hilarious. What category the two guys off the front are, and whether they think they can make the brake stick.
So, basically, 2 guys had gone off the front from the initial attack that I mentioned just earlier, and they were trying to figure out between themselves how strong each one of them were, and whether they could work together, I guess, all the way until the finish. After a while, they realized they were both Cat A and CAP category riders, and then they agreed to go ahead. All of this is playing out in the chat, and while hugely amusing, I knew that other CAP riders would likely pick up the chase to prevent this breakaway, so I prepare myself for a bit of a push. We have skipped forward a bit here. Over the previous 5 kilometers or so, there have been a few small attacks off the front, but nothing that stuck. The pace had been high but manageable, but then there is some additional chat that I thought was very interesting.
Interesting. Somebody's asking people to take turns. I could see he was a cap rider. That makes sense. He's probably worrying that the gap to the 2 guys in the front is going to grow. But I don't know how many cap riders I see in this group. So I think he'll be doing a lot of that work himself. I can't see any of the DRA or CRP or the other divisions. They're still here helping out. And you can see the 2 front riders now on my screen on the right. They're taking turns with the front guy doing 5.5 or 6 watts. So it's early doors, but I think they're gone. Yeah, somebody just mentioned so they're pulling Pro Power on the front. If they're that strong, see ya. Wish I could be ya. I wonder for the upcoming sprint whether people are really going to go for it or not. If I was a sprinter, and I'm not, I wouldn't have picked this race. I would have picked the race with the most contestants, because you have the biggest chance to get the draft for the longest. But today, with about 40 of us in the peloton here, I need to be very careful so I don't drop the front group. So let's hope they don't sprint too hard, because I'm gonna have to put in a dig just to make sure I stay in the front. And then of course we got the Acqueduc come right after. Let's see how we go. Okay guys, not too hard now, please. A couple of the sprinters going, we can let them go. Just make sure we stay and get draft.
I will roll the footage here of the rest of the sprint, as well as the effort up the Aqueduc com. The pace was high, but it was more of a managed hard effort for me rather than an all-out effort, although I certainly burned a few matches here. And my legs felt more tired than they should have, given the effort so far. which clearly didn't bode well for the upcoming climb. I do think we lose around 10 riders or so over the Acqueduc from the front group, so as I predicted, this section did cause a separation. After that effort, the pace slowed somewhat, and I think people were resting a bit for the upcoming climb. We pick up the action again about 1.5 kilometers ahead of the climb to see what my thoughts are for the upcoming effort.
Okay, few thoughts here as we approach the climb. One, my legs are not good. I can tell that. So, chances are I get dropped here. But hopefully I can find a few guys to work with. Second, there are a couple of cap guys in the front here who I think are desperate to catch. So they're gonna go super hard. And third, the guy who won the CRP race yesterday is here. And he's a way stronger climber than me. So that's not good. But we give it a good crack.
At the start of the climb, I give myself a bit of a pep talk.
Okay, vacation is over. Time to go to work. Positive mindset.
I will run the footage up the climb, so you can experience this very painful journey with me. A few guys go off the front right away, but I know I really need to manage my effort here if I want any chance to stay with the front group. As long as those riders don't get too far ahead, chances are they will be closed down. So my goal is just to stay in the main bunch. As the climb progresses, the riders are predictably being strung out. And I'm doing okay, but I'm really starting to feel the effort. I remember looking at my heart rate and saw that it was creeping up towards 180. 180 is not a red line for me, it's the nuclear line. Kaboom! So I am getting very worried here. With 800 meters to go, I'm still in the main group, but I know I can't keep this up for much longer. 800 meters, Sam, you can do it. After more pain and suffering, we approach the last 200 meters, and things are going from bad to worse. I am now at the back of the group, and my teammate Matthias is unfortunately joining me. At this point, I just empty the tank and hope for the best. We cross the KOM banner, but I know I'm not over the line yet. There's a bit of a flat and then a final bump before the descent, and I have to keep pushing here. I will put the actual audio on so you can hear what I sounded like here. Warning, it is not pretty. With a last push, I start the descent at the back of the group, but still there. I had nothing left at that point. That is the deepest I have gone for a long time. At this point, if you think I've suffered enough to earn your subscription, please click that button. Please. I can't try any harder than that. As we roll down the hill, I noticed a comment when looking back at the footage. It seemed like a couple of riders had gone off the front on the climb. I hadn't noticed, and I didn't care at this point as I was still busy dying. But one guy says turns 20 in the chat, clearly wanting those guys in front to start working to stay ahead of us. And then Mr. Steve Knowles responds with a classic, gonna say hi to Peter at the gates real quick. Steve, you're a very wise man. We have now skipped forward quite a bit. The group actually pushed relatively hard on the flat and ultimately brought back the guys in front. Not the two that were really off the front, but the guys that had left us on the climb. Then there were a few attacks that were brought back relatively quickly, and I have to admit I didn't do a second on the front here as I was still trying to recover from the hill, and my goal was really just to survive until the end. I had also started to cramp in my left calf, especially when standing up. Sam, you're getting old indeed. We are now approaching the Acqueduc again. Let's see how I do in the last kilometer. As we start going up the I do try to stand, and to my surprise, the Casse is okay-ish. I push as hard as I can, but around 10 guys or so just drift away from me. Absolutely nothing I could do here. I still continue to push though, as I can see some riders behind me and I seem to have a few seconds on them. Going down the hill, I put in a tiny sprint and I roll over the line in 14th. And then I provide some truly sage comments.
Don't expect any coherent coverage now, please.
Looking at the results, we can see that Aaron Girdlestone won, with Paul Wilkinson in second, and Kuba Standerski rounding out the podium. Aaron and Paul were the two nutters that went off the front in the first kilometer, and clearly that gamble paid off, as they were almost a minute ahead in the end. Super strong effort there. I finished in 14th, extremely happy with that result today, and I only lose around 10 seconds on EGAP to the best placed CRP rider, which is again Mr. Lorenzo Sirigu. Fingers crossed he gets upgraded to DRA. Nah, just kidding. Super strong effort there. Okay, as usual, a few final thoughts.
All right. Man, that was way tougher than I thought, and way harder than the race yesterday for me. Even though the parkour was easier, but I was at the absolute limit at the end of the Petit. Nothing left. And if that climb would have been another 100 meters, I think I would have lost the front group. I was that close. But in the end, I survived. And I didn't lose much time on EGAP. I think maybe 10 seconds or so. I can live with that. It could have been way, way worse for me today. Because as soon as the people lost that front group, in the end they finished, I think 2 or 3 minutes behind. And that could very easily have been me today. Legs didn't feel good from the start, so I knew it was going to be a long day. So I'm just happy to have survived, really. But that brings up a good point. Coming back to the EGAP discussion at the beginning of the video, and whether you can game it or at least tilt odds in your favor. You could argue that that's what I did today, in that I was able to ride in a race that didn't have as many participants as probably the races later today. But as you saw, as long as there are strong riders overall, and there are strong riders in your category specifically that can hang with the front of the group, you're always in danger of losing that front group and losing a ton of time on EGAP. And I was literally this close today in what was maybe one of the smaller races on the day. So is it possible? Maybe, but you gotta be lucky and you have to have the legs. But that's the case in any race. So hopefully we can put that discussion to bed. I was gonna do ZRL tomorrow, but after today, and I had cramp in my calves as well, there's no way. I need a rest day. So I'll end the video there, and hopefully I'll see you in a couple days in stage 5. This is Sam, trying to spin to win on Swift, and I'll see you in the next one.